It could be a plastic spoon, a leaf with dry edges, a small rock picked up from the yard, or an old toy you don't even remember buying. One day, your child walks over to you, places that object into your hand, then looks up at you, saying nothing, simply waiting for your reaction. Maybe you've experienced a moment like that before. You're cooking, answering a message, cleaning the house, and suddenly, a tiny hand appears beside you, carrying a very unusual little treasure. Many parents simply smile and take it. Some don't even look closely at what the object actually is. Because to adults, these things usually seem ordinary. But what is interesting is this. Many children do it again and again, as if bringing random objects to you means something important. So what makes a child who is completely absorbed in exploring the world suddenly stop, turn around, search for you, and hand you something they just found? If the goal is only to give you an object, why do they watch your face so carefully? Why do they seem happier when you smile or act surprised? Maybe that tiny behavior isn't random at all. And maybe what your child is trying to give you is much more than a leaf, more than a rock, or an old toy. If your child has ever brought you something strange, try to remember what it was. Because by the end of this video, you may realize it was never just an object. It was one of the sweetest ways children say, "I want to share this with you." When children are very young, the world feels full of wonders. A fallen leaf is worth stopping to examine. A pebble beside the road can become treasure. Even the smallest things can feel exciting, because everything is new. Everything is waiting to be discovered. But what is fascinating is this. Many children don't keep those discoveries to themselves. They find something interesting, and almost immediately, they think of you. There was a little boy playing in the yard. One day, he discovered a leaf with a very unusual shape. He picked it up, stood up, and instead of continuing to play, he ran straight toward his mother, holding the leaf up as high as he could, as if he had discovered treasure. The interesting part wasn't the leaf. It was what happened next. He looked at his mother's face, carefully, waiting, watching, as if her reaction mattered just as much as the leaf itself. And in many ways, it did. Because children don't only want to discover things, they also want to share those discoveries. Your child can't yet say, "Mom, look what I found," or "This is amazing." So they use a simpler language. They bring it to you, and that tiny gesture reveals something important. For the first time, your child is beginning to understand that experiences can be shared, that another person can become part of their excitement, that another person can matter. Child development experts see this as an important milestone, a small step away from a world that contains only me, and a small step toward a world that includes us. That is why many parents remember these moments so clearly, not because of the object itself, but because of what it represents. For the very first time, their child isn't focused only on their own experience. They're inviting someone else into it, and that someone is usually you. But there is an even deeper question. Why does your child feel the need to share that moment with you at all? Why do children look for our faces? After they discover something exciting, the answer begins with a remarkable skill that develops during the early years of life, a skill researchers call joint attention. And once you understand it, those tiny treasures start to mean something completely different. Maybe you've seen moments like these before. A cat walks past the window. Your child immediately points, then turns to look at you. An airplane crosses the sky. Your child looks up, then grabs your hand. A butterfly lands nearby. And before your child does anything else, they look for you, not because they can't see what is happening, and not because they need an explanation, but because they want to experience that moment together. Researchers call this joint attention. It happens when two people focus on the same thing at the same time. For adults, that sounds ordinary, but for a young child, it is a very important step in development. Because through moments like these, children begin learning something powerful. What I notice matters. What I care about matters too. And I don't have to experience it alone. That is why children often bring you a toy, a rock, or a leaf. Then simply stand there waiting. They aren't waiting for you to take it away. They aren't waiting for you to evaluate it. They're waiting for you to join them, to see what they see, to feel a little of what they feel. And when you do, something beautiful happens. The experience becomes shared. The excitement becomes shared. The connection becomes shared. If your child has ever brought you a tiny treasure, tell me about it in the comments. I'd love to know what it was. Because many parents eventually realize those little objects were never the important part. The real gift was the invitation hidden inside them. An invitation that quietly says, "Come and see the world with me." But there is something even more touching than that. Because when children bring you a leaf, a feather, or a small rock, the thing they are really giving you isn't always the object itself. But there is something even more touching than that. Because when children bring you a leaf, a feather, or a small rock, the thing they are really giving you isn't always the object itself. To an adult, a leaf is just a leaf. A rock is just a rock. But to a child, those objects often carry a completely different meaning. That leaf may be something they spent several minutes searching for. That feather may be the most interesting thing they have seen all day. That tiny treasure may be connected to a moment of excitement, wonder, or joy. And when they bring it to you, they are not simply sharing the object. They are sharing the feeling attached to it. There was a little boy walking with his father. One day he found a tiny feather. It wasn't rare. It wasn't valuable. But to him, it was extraordinary. He immediately ran over to his father, holding it up proudly, his eyes shining. What he wanted wasn't an opinion about the feather. He wanted his father to see what he was feeling. And perhaps that is why children often stay after handing something to you. They wait. They watch your face. They look for your reaction. Because what they are really hoping to hear is, "I say it too. I understand why this matters to you." Moments like these help children discover something important. What I feel matters. And what I care about can matter to someone else too. Those are some of the earliest building blocks of emotional connection. And perhaps that explains something many parents have noticed. Out of everyone around them, the first person children usually think about is you. Not because you asked them to, not because you taught them to, but because in their small world, you are the person they most want to share joy with. And maybe that is the most touching part of all. Perhaps the most beautiful thing about this story is this. Children never need expensive gifts to show affection. Sometimes a leaf is enough. Sometimes a feather is enough. Sometimes a small rock picked up from the ground is enough. Because what makes those things special is not the object itself. It is the person receiving it. You, one day. Your child will grow up. They will have their own friends, their own adventures, their own discoveries. And that is exactly how it should be. But today, while they still run toward you carrying tiny treasures, you are the person they want to share those discoveries with. Every time your child brings you something, they may be saying, "This made me happy. This made me curious. And I want you to be part of it." Sometimes we accept those treasures too quickly. We smile, then go back to our phones, back to our work, back to whatever we were doing. And that is understandable. Life is busy, but maybe next time, pause for a few extra seconds. Look at the object, then look at your child's face. Because the most valuable thing in that moment is not the leaf, not the feather, not the rock. It is the child standing in front of you, waiting to share a piece of their world. And perhaps that is one of the earliest forms of love. Long before children can say, "I love you," they already know how to say, "Look what I found. Come see this. I want to share it with you." If this video reminded you of a special treasure your child once brought you, tell me about it in the comments. I'd love to hear what it was. And if you think another parent would enjoy this story, share this video with them, because sometimes understanding one small behavior a little better can help us see our children with much gentler eyes. And if you'd like more stories about the hidden meaning behind everyday childhood moments, don't forget to subscribe, because children are telling us things every day, often through the smallest moments of all.